All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 268. And today, I needed a drink. So, today, something has happened that has changed the world of... No, not really. So, if anybody was around video game YouTube in 2023, something massive happened. And to be blunt, I actually can't remember if I've made a video talking about this. I want to say that I did at least once. But it's also possible that I was talking to with my friends before, like a D&D game about it. But basically, back in 2023, to reference the title of this, and again, whenever I say I'm going to reference the title while I'm recording the video, it generally means I already know what I'm going to call this. In my humble opinion, legalese, two dipshit morons decided that they would pretend that they understand how businesses works, despite the fact neither of them having any idea how basic accounting functions, much less the intricacies of like running a 501c3 charity and other things like that. But that didn't stop them because they were YouTubers, and YouTubers are infallible. They can just decide that they know something, and then they get to make up completely unsubstantiated claims and ruin people's lives. Allegedly, legalese. So, the moral of this story is don't believe any moron with a camera. And I completely understand the irony of that statement coming from a moron with a camera. But I'm a moron with a camera that also has a Bachelor of Science in Business. So something that neither of the two dipshit morons, in my humble opinion, had. Though I think one of them, I don't know, he got in trouble later on for claiming to be an engineer when he's not. Anyway, so what happened? Carl Jobst and Mudahar, some ordinary gamer. If anyone's wondering why I'm just calling him some ordinary gamer, no, that's his channel name. That's his internet name. His real name's the name people call him is Mudahar. I don't know if that's his full name or if that's another nickname or something like that. I don't know. I know people refer to him as Mudahar, and his channel name is Some Ordinary Gamer. So, by the way, both these people significantly bigger than I am, though Carl Jobst is much smaller than Mudahar is. So, back in 2023, they discovered evil in the world of video games. Actually, they didn't. What they did is there still is this gentleman by the name of Gerard. He goes by the name The Completionist on the interwebs. And he was one of the OG YouTubers. I guess maybe not OG, because I think he started in like the 2010s, like early 2010s. And technically OG YouTube was like the late noughties. Like I think YouTube launched in like 2006, 2007. And so technically the OG ones were around that 2007, 2008. However... a completionist was around when YouTube started becoming, for lack of a better phrase, a real thing. People were starting to make money off of it. It was starting to scare Hollywood because YouTubers were able to do things that Hollywood wasn't letting them do. A really phenomenal example, Felicia Day, for the longest time, just could not get the roles that she wanted to play. So... she went, screw you guys, I'm going home. She decided, no, if I can't do the things that I want, then I'm going to just make the things that I want. And she created this little web series called The Guild, which is amazing. And eventually, it helped launch Geek and Sundry. I believe it was on some like official channel. Like I think season 5 was actually backed by an actual television company. But around that time frame, the early 2010s, the early to mid 2010s, YouTube was becoming this big deal, and Gerard was part of that. He was part of the Let's Play community, and while a lot of the people that started around him kind of went in different places, he was remarkably successful. And one of the things that he eventually did is he founded, I don't know if he founded or he got involved with a charity called the Open Hand Foundation. Now, the Open Hand Foundation is complicated, to say the least. But for this story specifically, the Open Hand Foundation effectively was a charity that was created to be kind of like a pass between the various charity events that Gerard would create and host, and the dementia research foundations that he intended to donate the money to. So, what does any of this have to do with two dipshit morons that don't know what they're talking about but decided to ruin somebody's life? Allegedly, in my opinion, legalese. Well, 2023, they went and discovered something that literally anybody in the world could have discovered. Here's the thing. The Open Hand Foundation is referred to as a 501c3 charity. What that means, and I think I've talked about this a little bit in my turning your hobby into a business series that I still need to finish. Love me some depression and anxiety, making me stop things before they're done. The 501c3 is actually a reference to the tax forms that are filed in relation to that charity. And most people in the U.S. specifically will refer to that particular style of charity as just a 501c3, despite the fact that most people won't refer to an employee as a W-2 or an independent contractor as a 1099. That's effectively what they're doing. And I will tell you this, when you get into management, 100% you do refer to at least independent contractors as 1099s. I've done it. And I've seen other people in management do it as well. But normal people don't. Normal people do sometimes refer to these charities as 501c3s. So, the thing with most charities, but specifically 501c3s, is they're required by law to release financial statements every year. And the reason why, the thing that makes them a charity, that whole 501c3 thing, is they don't pay taxes. That's the entire reason any of this stuff happens. The reason that charities exist is you create a charity so that you can do something without having to pay taxes on it. And because of that, the government, both federal and state, because there are state laws that govern 501c3s and there are federal laws that govern them as well, are really, really strict about what you are and aren't allowed to call a charity. Specifically because they want money. And they don't want anyone to just go, well, this is my charity, that the point of the charity is to get hungry people named me food. So I don't want to pay any money on that, but the charity just gives me food. It's how I pay for McDonald's. So one of those things is they have to file these financial documents that are available to the public. You can find the financial filings of any 501c3 in the country whenever you want. However, simply because you can find the documents doesn't mean that you can understand them, nor does it mean that you understand how a charity works. And that's where two dipshit morons that don't know what they're talking about come into this. They discovered that on these financial documents, they noticed something kind of strange. Again, the entire purpose of this charity was to donate the money that it collected to Alzheimer's and dementia research foundations and things like that. And they could see all the money that came into the charity, but they couldn't see any money going out of it. Because again, part of this filing is you have to basically show them your bank account. Not the whole bank account, but you have to specifically say, this is how much money the business has, this is how much it paid for this is how much it paid for that. It's complicated to say the least, especially if you've never studied generally, they call it GAAP. It's generally accepted accounting principles. It's the standard way that you write accounting stuff. If you've never studied that, the document itself can be a little bit confusing. It's not particularly hard to learn enough of it to be able to read that particular document. To go anything further than that, you actually have to take some accounting courses. Generally accepted accounting principles are massively obtuse. They're annoying as fuck. I hated it. The only course, or the courses that I hated the most, there were other courses I didn't like in college. The courses that I hated the most were my accounting courses. Fun fact, the only thing that I got wrong on my first submission of my capstone project was the accounting section. And it was a really, really simple thing. I put a number in one column that was supposed to go in another column. And because I had automated all the totals and everything like that, by putting it in the wrong column, it gave me some wrong numbers in other places. That was the only thing I did wrong. It was a 5-minute fix. Thank you, phone. It was a 5-minute fix, so it was not difficult to deal with. But yeah, I don't like accounting. However, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't understand it. However, two dipshit morons that don't know what they're talking about have no idea how accounting works in any way, shape, or form. So they saw that, hey, this thing's not donating anything, and they started to investigate, which their investigation, as far as I understand, was, let's make up some shit and then let's just say stuff so we can ruin somebody's life. So they did kind of attempt to get to the bottom of it, but not really. What they did was they ambushed Gerard in, I think it was a Discord call, recorded it, and then released clips of it to make Gerard look like a villain. And then this whole conspiracy theory started about the idea of, oh my God, he's a criminal and he was stealing money from dementia patients and he was embezzling it and he's the horrible person. He deserves to go to jail. He should burn forever in the fires of charity hell. None of that was true. What actually happened, and the reason I'm talking about this today, like an hour or two ago, Gerard finally released a video actually talking about what happened, debunked the vast majority of the allegations against him, and owned up to the thing that I kind of knew from the beginning because, again, I understand how charities work. Fun fact, for anyone that doesn't know, I think it's been, it had to have been over a decade at this point. It must have been in 2013, 2014. I had a friend who had another friend that wanted to start up a ministry in North Milwaukee. Specifically, the purpose of this ministry was to effectively take homeless people off the street, steal them in the night. No, get homeless people off the street, give them a place to live, feed them, clothe them, and share their faith with them while they're being fed and clothed. And while that's happening, also give them actual job experience so that when they left the charity, they could immediately go out and find a job. Like that was the entire purpose of this, the entire idea behind this. In order for this charity to work, it had to have actual businesses that these people could work in to get valuable job experience. One of these businesses was going to be a dinner theater. And at that point, I still had an agent at that point. I was still very involved in theater and acting and things like that. And so I was brought on to consult on the theater aspect of it as an actor, because that was what I did. I hadn't really tried my hand at directing, but again, I'd also gone to school for theater, and I had done courses on soundboards and lighting and all that stuff. Like I had a remarkably good theater education. I only did 2 years of it, and that's the funny part. So I got brought in, and I was chatting with the guy that was running the whole thing. And as we chatted more, I mentioned my kind of love of training and things like that. And he went, really? Well, again, and I was just brought on with the idea of, oh, we're going to have you, consult on the theater aspects. Is this a good space? How much space should they have for dressing rooms? Or, what's going to make it easier as an actor that you would want to work in this theater? And I hadn't heard about the whole goal of the ministry. It was just, hey, it's a dinner theater. Come consult. Maybe you can get a job. I'm like, I'm good for that. And he goes, so you're into training? I said, yeah, that's what I do professionally. I was still working for the office supply company. And I said, yeah, that's what I do. He's like, oh, would you mind coming around and just kind of giving me some ideas? I said, yeah, sure. And so as I talked more with this guy, he became convinced that I was kind of the missing puzzle piece for this charity, because they had all these awesome people involved, but they really didn't have anyone to design the actual training programs. Because again, the purpose of this thing, get them off the street, feed them, clothe them so that they're no longer terrified that they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. They don't know if they're going to die from exposure, because Wisconsin's not a nice place to live for like half the year. Easily half the year. Some years more than that. But also to give them good job experience so that they could actually go and support themselves once they got out of this charity. And if the training wasn't good, which is how most jobs are, like training is just not really focused on in the US in general, then the charity is going to fail. And so we got to talking more, and I started developing training programs and designing staffing models and things like that. I got really, really involved in this. And because of that, I got to see a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I basically became the person that was running this. I became his business partner. And together, and when I say together, I mean him while I watched, we raised something like $360 million for this charity. For those of you wondering, where did $360 million go? Well, here's the thing about charities. See, we found this awesome mall that had been vacant for a decade, but was still in really good shape, because despite the fact that it had been vacant, it had maintenance done on it for the entire decade. Like, someone was paying to maintain this building, despite the fact no one was making any money out of it. So it was in remarkable condition. We got the funds to purchase the building and the land around it. We got construction crews that were going to be able to break ground within a week of us closing the deal, and had told us, because they were going to work triple shift, meaning around the clock, we would be up and ready to start accepting people into it within 6 months. We had actually contacted a hospital who was going to have a hospital be a part of this complex, and their only thing that they needed was we had to allow them to accept outside patients. And if we did that, then they wouldn't charge us for any of the medical services. we needed for the people that we were helping. We did amazing things. We had everything that we needed. And then the city planner of Milwaukee said, no, we don't want that to turn into this amazing, because what it was going to be was this mission, and then there was going to be a retail outlet and a dinner theater and a hydroponics facility, and basically as many different kind of we were going to have a power plant there too, as many different kinds of businesses as we could possibly get, so that we could provide a just wide amount of job training and a lot of different kinds of jobs. Because if we only train people for, let's say, like retail management, where there's a limited number of stores, there's also going to be restaurants in there too. There's only a limited number of stores in the greater Milwaukee area. We were going to, run out of jobs for these people. And then again, the point of the ministry, which was going to be a charity, I believe a 501c3, we would run out of stuff. So we had all this stuff. It was going to be amazing. And yeah, the city planner of Milwaukee just said, yeah, we want to turn that into luxury condos and high-rise condos. You know what that building is doing today? Well over a decade later, they just, after I think it was like 4 or 5 years of fighting. Oh, the other thing we had done is we'd actually already contacted the owner of the property, and they had already agreed to either sell it to us at cost or give it to us for free, because they liked the ministry. So we did amazing things. But the city planner said, no, we're going to turn it into luxury condos. And then, like I said, over 10 years later, you know what they're doing with it now? They finally, after 5 years, were able to secure the rights to the building so they could demolish it. Because in the time after they denied us, they did nothing with the building. It fell into massive disrepair. Somebody broke in and accidentally hit one of the power boxes, was messing with the power boxes and got electrocuted to death. Like, it was not a great thing. The building got condemned, and yeah, I don't know if it's actually torn down yet, because it takes forever for the government to do anything. But anyway, so what happened to the $360 million? Well, the way that we raised all that money is we basically got all of these investors that basically said, hey, this is how much money we'll give you, but we won't give it to you until everything is finalized. And so as soon as we got that rejection, all of the money just went away. They just went, well, if you can't take our money, we're going to give it to people who actually can use it. Because I was very heavily involved in that, I've got a little bit more understanding of how charities works. And again, I had to learn about charities in school and all that stuff. I have a little bit better understanding of charities than most, and definitely a better understanding of charities than two dipshit YouTuber or two dipshit morons who don't know what they're talking about. So, getting back to what happened in 2023, both Mudahar and Carl Jobs release these videos condemning the completionist. Gerard makes a video responding like a month or something later. But at that particular point in time, because one of the things that Mudahar specifically had done is he told all of his viewers to mass report the charity to, I can't even remember who it was, some governmental entity that looks over charities. I don't know if it was the Department of Justice or the IRS or something, but he instructed everyone, hey, this is how you mass report them, and he walked them through in one of the videos. So they were currently under they're currently under criminal investigation for all this stuff. And so they had lawyers, and the lawyers basically told him, don't say a fucking thing. And so he made this video that had very little information, and it sounded like he was, trying to dodge everything and being real shady and creepy. And so two dipshit morons decided to double, triple, quadruple down and started making up completely baseless, unfounded bullshit. In my humble opinion, legalese. So today, Gerard released a video actually debunking the vast majority of all those things, and I wanted to talk specifically about some of the things that two dipshit morons that don't know what they're talking about have no absolutely no understanding of how the real world works. And that is running a charity and charity donations. Here is a fun fact. If you decide to donate to a major charity and your donation is less than, let's say, 5 figures. So if you're donating less than $10,000, your money is helping no one. You know what your money is going to? Your money is going to paying for lunch. Your money is going to somebody's salary. Your money is going to paying for gas for the company car. What do you mean? That doesn't sound... No. So the way that big charities work is they're expensive to run. Something that a lot of people just don't seem to understand. Charities make shit tons of money, but they're not for profit. Yes, that doesn't mean I don't make money. Not for profit means the purpose of the charity is not solely to make profit like a for-profit business. The entire purpose of a for-profit business is to make money. That is the only thing that it exists for as far as the government is concerned. So, your favorite restaurant that you go to, they're not there to feed the neighborhood or create a welcoming place. No, they're there to make money, according to the government. That's what that means. That's all it means. So a not-for-profit company, like a charity or something like that, it means that the sole purpose of it is not to create profit for the people that created it. It has some other purpose. And again, the different flavors of charity all have like different things that they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do as far as what they can do with that money. A 501c3 charity, I can't remember specifically the limitations on them off the top of my head, but generally they have to be doing something for the public good effectively. Despite the fact that that's not the sole purpose, they make shit tons of money. Again, the charity that I was going to be a part of made $360 million without existing. We had $360 million. So what happens is the people that work for those charities, the fun thing about charities, they're one of the few businesses in the country that are allowed to accept volunteer employment. Basically, people are allowed to donate their time to the charity. Every other business in existence, at least by U.S. law, that's covered under U.S. law, is never in any way, shape, or form allowed to accept free work. If you do something that benefits the business, they're required by law to pay you, with the rare exception of if you did that work without their knowledge and without their position, they are not required to pay you because you've effectively... you've effectively done it yourself and have broken other laws. But that is the only situation that they wouldn't technically have to pay you. But a lot of times it also means that they can't accept whatever you have done because they didn't pay for it. Charities, on the other hand, can accept volunteer labor and do on a very, very regular basis. And a lot of people operate under this misconception that, well, since charities can accept volunteers, everybody that works at a charity is a volunteer. Nope. Because you get what you pay for. Having worked for multiple charities, I used to work for my church. Again, I worked with this other one. And I've volunteered for charities before, many, many times. I'm going to tell you this. Volunteers are a real mixed bag. They are impressively unreliable. Because sometimes you'll get phenomenally skilled volunteers. And then other times you will get dipshits that you do not trust to serve water. Like, again, it is impressive that some of these people are able to dress themselves in the morning. And then the other fun thing with being a charity is every so often you also get people that are required to do they call it community service. And one of the ways they can do community service sometimes is volunteering for a charity. So every so often you get people that aren't technically volunteering, they are court ordered And those, again, very mixed bags. Some of them very, very skilled and talented. Some of them are just there because, can you sign that sheet saying that I was here for 4 hours? Yeah, but you literally spent the 4 hours leaning against the wall smoking. But I was here for 4 hours. Fine! So anyway, for a charity to exist, like any other business, it has to be run by somebody that knows what they're doing. And people that know what they're doing cost money. And so most, I will say, the absolute vast majority, like 99% of charities, have people at the top that take a salary or an hourly wage and have other people within the business that actually get paid for what they do. And that gives two benefits. One, you get higher quality people. If you're willing to pay them, people that actually know what they're doing will come and help the charity. Two, it means that those people can devote all of their time to the charity as opposed to donating whatever time they have available while they're working their real job so that they can exist in the world. So those people need salaries, they need benefits, they need taxes paid on all of those. Because despite the fact that the charity itself doesn't pay taxes on any of its income and things like that, there are certain situations where they do have to pay the things like workers' comp insurance, which is one of the taxes, and payroll taxes, stuff like that. I'm not 100% certain how it works because, again, it's been a long time since I've studied charities and the intricacies of tax law, which is another subject that's not fun. But the tax exempt status generally refers, as far as my understanding, to the actual business taxes. Again, I'm not 100% certain if some or all charities are able to kind of exempt themselves from payroll taxes. I would think that they wouldn't, because just because you work for a charity doesn't mean that you don't pay taxes on your income. If you work for a charity, you still pay taxes on your income. So anyway, so if you make small donations, generally what they do is they just put those into this undisclosed fund, and most of that fund goes into operating costs. And running a charity is expensive. Again, one of the things that some charities have to do is they have to lobby. Or not really lobby. They have to. I can't think of the right word. They have to. They have to get donations. I can't remember. There's an actual phrase for what that is, but they have to go out and they have to contact businesses and they have to have meetings and stuff like that to get donors to actually donate big sums of money to the charities. All of that costs money. It costs money to go to the various places. You have to take cars, planes, other forms of transportation. A lot of times, a lot of these meetings happen over lunches and dinners and things like that. It's an extremely common thing in the business world to have a business lunch. All of that stuff, it's not really fair to ask your employees to pay for the exorbitantly priced lunch because they're meeting with a Fortune 500 CEO, or probably not the CEO, probably somebody significantly lower down. But who makes enough money to be able to afford something like that? Mostly because, due to the fact that it's a business lunch, they can expense the cost of it, and so they just give it back to the company itself, or they can write it off on their taxes as a business expense. So it doesn't really matter to them. So those small donations, and again, when I say small, I'm referring to anything under 5 figures. That is not going to help a single person, because charities get big donations. And when I say big, I don't mean, oh yeah, like $500,000, $600,000. I'm talking about tens of millions of dollars from Fortune 500 companies. And one of the things that can and quite often does happen is if a company is making a donation that large, they can actually get a contract written with the charity that says, hey, by the way, we want our money to actually be used for research or to do this. And Gerard specifically names what that type of donation is called. Again, my brain doesn't like proper nouns, so I don't remember what it's called. But that's one of the things that these large companies can do. And because of that, that means when, you have, 100 people giving, $10 a piece, and that money can be used for anything, but this $200 million donation can only be used for cancer research or for dementia studies or whatever, well then, they're going to use this, well, we can use this for anything, for all the stuff that they're not allowed to use the good money for. And the way that these particular specified donations works is after the company makes this donation, they write out this contract that says this can only be used for this. There's somebody, or 9 times out of 10, a lot of people in the company, that their sole purpose is they track the money. And they go, hey, we spent this amount of money on this thing, so you can see that your donation dollars did this, and this. That's how those work. Now, if you wanted to call up a charity and go, hey, I want to donate $100, but I want to make sure that $100 only goes towards research. It doesn't go towards any of your expenses. They will tell you, okay, go somewhere else. Because the amount of money it will cost them to track your donation and see that it goes to the right place is a hell of a lot more than $100. It's just not worth it. So going back to what happened when two dipshit morons that don't know what they're talking about saw money that was there and immediately went, oh my God, they're stealing. That's not what happened. What had happened was, and this is explained in the video, I'll have the video linked in the description if you guys want to watch it. Basically, the Open Hand Foundation, which was not run by Gerard, had been in negotiation with a bunch of different very large charities saying, hey, we want guarantees on this money. And they basically all said, okay, come back to us when you have $1 million. And the Open Hand Foundation went, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, we won't track your money for anything less than $1,000 or $1 million. If you do not give us a lump sum $1 million, then we will put it in the general fund and it will be used however we want. And again, it's not that they want to use all of this for administration and stuff like that. No, the thing is, you have all of this money that can only be used in one way, and then you have this lump sum money that can be used for anything. Well, then a lot of times that means that anything that is not specifically earmarked for, hey, it has to be used for this, is going to be used for administration costs because it's the only money that's allowed to be used for administration costs. Again, this is how actual charities works, and they have worked this way for a very, very long time. This is always how it has worked. It's always how it will work. It's a very, very good system. Because, and here's where people are going, well, I don't want my money going to some random secretary. I want it to cure cancer. Well, it is. However, it's doing it in a very different way. If that secretary didn't have her job, then the person that she works for, or he works for, they work for, the person that they work for would not be able to do anywhere near as much work as they can when they have an administrative assistant. I understand you're not supposed to call them secretaries anymore. My mother was an administrative assistant. Thank you very much. I think my brother was too for a little bit. It's actually, if you can deal with bullshit, it's actually a nice job. It's not an easy job in any way, shape, or form. But administrative assistants are necessary, first of all. And they don't make bad money. They don't make good money. But they don't make bad money. And they get to work in an office environment, which is slightly less debilitating than working in like retail. I notice I say slightly. There are other problems when being an administrative assistant that you don't have to deal with when you are working in retail, but you also generally have a much lower chance of being murdered on your job. More about that in another video. So anyway, so what had happened with this large lump of money is effectively they had been trying for years to get some charity, any charity that they could find. They just wanted to be able to have one of those documents so that when they came to the next charity event, they could go, hey guys, I just wanted you guys to know, remember how we donated this? Well, this much money went towards this specific study that was able to show this linkage between this and this and this, and this went to buying petri dishes for this study, and this went to this and this and this and this and this. They wanted to be able to do that, and no charities would let them do that for anything shy of $1 million. However, they never told anybody this. Again, this is extremely common. Anybody that works in the charity world would 100% understand. Oh, yeah, totally. It's because it's not enough money. And again, the reason behind that is it costs money for them to earmark this. They have to specifically put it sometimes in a separate account, or at least have something that allows them to track that particular money. They have to pay people to not only track where the money is going, but ensure that it's going to the right places. And then they also have to pay somebody to write that whole little thing that goes, hey, by the way, your money went here and here and here. Congratulations, you're a good person. So, two dipshit morons that didn't know what they were talking about started speculating, oh my god, this is embezzlement. Oh my god, they're stealing. They're committing fraud. None of that was true. And this is the second thing I wanted to cover, is what is fraud? Because the idea of fraud has come up quite a few times recently. And it has come to my understanding that the vast majority of people have no idea what fraud means as far as in a legal context. So here's the thing about fraud. As far as crimes are concerned, the crime of fraud is very, very specifically defined. What fraud is collecting money from people with the intent to never give them whatever it is they think they're giving you the money for. That is what fraud is. So in order to prove fraud legally, you have to prove that at the time they were accepting the money, they had absolutely no intention, and they knowingly, that's the other part of fraud, is it has to be knowing. You can't accidentally defraud someone. Part of fraud includes intent. In the same way, murder requires intent. If you didn't intend to do it, it's technically not murder. It's manslaughter, and they're different crimes. The same is the same thing is true about fraud. Fraud requires intent. So, if Gerard had actually committed fraud, in order for them to even allege it, they would have to have some kind of proof that when he was accepting the donations, he had no intention of that money ever going to any charity. He knew at that point that he was just lining his pockets. That is the crime of fraud. So what they saw here did not even imply fraud. Because again, the money itself was all still there. And Gerard shows in the video, he actually shows Mudahar saying point blank, well, the money's all there. Like, none of the money's missing. So it's obvious that you guys aren't taking the money. So there is literally nothing to support the idea of fraud, because no one had actually taken the money. No one had actually benefited from it. And again, fraud is much more than I took the money. Fraud is I intentionally lied to you so that you would give me money. And I never intended, from the point that I was getting the money from you, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I was never going to do with that money what you thought I was going to do with it. And fraud can be, again, there's charity fraud, there's other kinds of fraud. There's lots of different flavors of fraud. But that's what it is. Gerard never committed fraud in any way, shape, or form. He does admit in the video that he did lie about the donations going, quote-unquote, directly to these people, or that the donations were actually being given out to these things. And he only found out, I think he mentioned in 2022 is when he actually found out. So about a year before everything blew up, he found out that none of the money had been donated. Up until that point, he had no idea. So up until that point, he wasn't even lying. Like everything that he was saying, as far as he knew, was 100% true because that's what he had been told. And then he went and looked at the books like anyone can. Again, that's how 501c3 charities work. Anybody in the world can look up the books. Hooray! Now you can be an investigative journalist too. So he never committed fraud. There was never any way to prove it. There was never any. There was never any indications that could have hinted that there was fraud involved. Doesn't mean that two dipshit morons that didn't know what they were talking about didn't throw around the world like it was candy, because they were two dipshit morons that didn't know what they were talking about, in my humble opinion. Legalese. So, now we get to the other stuff. So what happens, if you get the money and you didn't initially intend to defraud people, but then you take the money anyways. Like originally you thought you were going to do it, but then later on you're like, maybe not. That can be a few different things, but more often than not, it is what's called embezzlement, which is another term that was thrown around loosey-goosey by two dipshit morons that didn't know what they were talking about. So, what is embezzlement? It is exactly what what I described there. It's when you take money from a business for your own personal gain. That is embezzlement. Embezzlement is not keeping all of this money in a bank account and never doing anything with it. Embezzlement is literally taking money from a business and putting it into your own personal bank account. Again, we have video proof or audio proof, because the video wasn't working for that thing. We have audio proof. None of the money was missing, so it wasn't possible for it to have been embezzled. They admitted right there, all the money's right there. So there was no reason to even hint at the idea of, well, maybe he embezzled it. Nope, the money's all there. Can't be embezzlement. So the only way you can be accused of embezzlement and charged with embezzlement is if you actually take money and it goes to you. That is embezzlement. That's what embezzlement means. So what about something like the V Shoujo situation, where the money just disappears because you're being a moron? That... I'm trying to think of the legal term for it. There's another thing, it's not malpractice, but it's the same basic principle as malpractice. I used to know the term, but again, my brain doesn't like me. So basically, if you make stupid business decisions, that's not illegal. However, if you make gratuitously stupid business decisions where a normal person would go, maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, I don't know, having someone randomly call the store that you work at, say, hi, I'm from loss prevention, and we have video evidence of one of your employees taking money out of a wallet of a customer. Now, the customer has told us that he won't press charges if you take all of the cash in the entire store, put it into a paper bag, and then give it to a random person in a parking lot. That is a monumentally stupid thing to do. That could get... What's it called? I need to know what this term is. Term for... mistakes. What's it called? Mistake of fact. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Damn it. I can't remember what the actual term is. But effectively, if you, there is a legal term for it. If anyone, fucking hell, pardon my language, but it really frustrates you. My brain doesn't let me do the things that I want it to do. Anyway, so if you do that, then you can actually be charged with a crime because you did something so monumentally stupid that the average person would understand, no, that's a stupid thing for you to do. And it caused actual damages, which in legal terms means money was lost. That's what legal damages are, is money. In some way, shape, or form. Sometimes legal damages can also be things like pain and suffering. But in order for it to actually show up in some kind of court case, you have to have a dollar amount assigned to it in some way, shape, or form. You have to be able to show that it caused you to lose money, because money is how everything legal works. It's the common denominator for everything. Was money in some way lost? Okay, now we have a crime. If there was no money lost in any way, shape, or form, whether that was actual money being taken away or you losing the ability to make money because of what happened, you have to link it to money in some way, shape, or form. So, theoretically, if you are so dumb that you fuck over an entire company because you're a dipshit, that can be illegal. But you have to do some monumentally stupid shit in order for it to actually be a crime. Otherwise, it's just you being a dipshit. So, going back to this whole thing with Gerard, the video itself lays out pretty clearly what happened. And as far as, in my humble opinion, what Gerard did wrong, lying to people, monumentally stupid mistake. Not criminal, and I don't think, even from like an ethical standpoint, I don't think it is quote unquote evil. I think it was a bad decision. Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. He's just a boy. It was a bad idea. It was a dumb idea. Do I think that he's an evil, disgusting person because he lied about something? No. In the average 10-minute conversation, somebody tells at least one or two lies. The world runs on lies. If we start getting mad at every single person that's ever told a lie, we're going to be, but I donated and I was told that it was going directly to... Congratulations. I'm happy that you feel offended because your money didn't immediately go towards dementia research. Guess what? If you donated that money in any other way, it wouldn't have gone to dementia research. So nothing has changed. And he showed in the video, he actually, every single penny of everything that anyone ever donated, whether subscriptions, bit donations, anything, all of it went to dementia research as a directed donation. He has the little letter that says these are the things that have been done with it. So anyone that went, I can't believe this, he lied to me, my money was supposed to go to blah blah, it did. 100% it did. It took longer than it should have, but it wasn't because he's this evil, horrible mastermind that was trying to defraud. No, it was because this is how charities work. It's the same thing when, to give you an example, we used to have companies that would buy something like a printer from the store that I used to work for. And the company that I worked for offered service plans for these printers. We were highly encouraged to sell them because they were like 50% profit margin items. They were, I think they were really high profit margin items. Which, fun fact, in retail, your high profit margin items are generally in the 20s to 30% profit. Those are your high profit margin items. So something that was 50 or 60% profit was insane. However, one of the rebuttals that I would get constantly is like, well, it's got a warranty, right? So, yes, it does. Okay, well, then the warranty will be just fine. I don't want your stupid shit. You're just trying to make me pay for stuff I don't need. All right, sir, if that's what you want, have a wonderful day. And then invariably, 3 months later, they go, hey, this shit is broken. I want you to fix it for me. Sorry, sir, can't do that. Well, why can't you? Well, because I can't. I don't know how to fix it. Well, I bought it from here, so you have to replace it. No, I don't. Yes, you do. It has a warranty. Congratulations. That warranty is through the company that made it. I literally have nothing to do with that company. We just sell their products. We offered you a way for you to come into the store and us to deal with it for you. You said no. So now you get to go through that company, not my company. I legally am not allowed to do that because if I start dealing with their warranty, which is a legal contract between you and that company, I can actually be in violation of contract law. So no, go away, you asshole. I never got to say that last part. But it's the same basic principle. It's like, well, why didn't you just don't? Like Mudahar literally went on. It's like, look, I can go to the website and I could just click $15 and I could donate. Why can't you just donate it? Because all of that money would go towards lunches, gas, and salaries. That's how it works. That's how it has worked for a very, very long time. That's how charities work. Just because you don't understand how they work doesn't mean that you get to get mad because they don't work the way that in your imaginary mindset they're supposed to work. They have never worked that way. You want to know why they don't work that way? Because they wouldn't work. Quite literally, if anyone with $10 could say, I only want this going towards cancer research, then all charities would immediately close. Because again, it costs too much money to be able to ensure that every single thing goes there, and it costs money to run a charity. It always has. Everything in the world costs money. And it's supposed to. The people that work for charities, just because you work for a charity, do you think that they're somehow lesser people, that they don't deserve to be able to put food on their table, to be able to support their family? A lot of these people are highly skilled and have an immense amount of experience in very specific things. There are things that charities have to deal with that nobody else does. Here's a fun fact. If you want to get into the world of charities, hold on a second. You want to start working for charities? You want to know one of the most valuable things in the world for a charity is somebody that understands how to write a grant. What do you mean, write a grant? I can write grant. It's real easy. Grant. I just wrote grant. Does that mean I get money? Give me all the monies now. No. So, something that a lot of people are unaware of. There is shit tons of money that are sitting in bank accounts in various places around the world that the entire purpose of that money is to be given to people for various reasons. And it just sits there, gaining interest. You want to know why? Well, in order to get access to that money, you have to have it granted to you. That's what a grant is they are granting you this money. And there's an actual process that is called writing a grant. And it's not done by the people that own the money. It's done by the people that want the money. And it's not an exorbitantly complex process. Like, this is not, differential calculus or anything like that. But it is a very specific process. And there's a lot more to it than just, dear monies, I would like you to come live with me so I can do cool stuff with the monies. You have to, first of all, be able to know where the money is, which company owns which amount of money, what they're supposed to be doing with that money, and you have to know the actual legal forms you have to fill out. And that whole process is called writing a grant. It is remarkable how few people know how to do that. If anyone's wondering, I do not. I understand enough of the process to know that I can't write a grant. That is as far as it goes for me. But if you go through the process of learning how to write grants, and each different field has a slightly different way to do it, but there is kind of a basic process that most of them are going to be somewhat similar to. So if you get into, if you get into something like cancer research, writing a cancer research grant is going to be different than writing like a grant for a library or something like that. But they have similarities to them. So you really want to become an invaluable member of a charity, maybe work for a charity and get paid for it, learn how to write grants. It is, and again, people don't know, there is billions of dollars. I'm not joking here. There's billions of dollars that are just sitting in bank accounts waiting for someone to write a grant for it. I'm not joking about this. Again, we raised $360 million through donations and grant writing. It's how it works. It's one of the reasons why the money went away so fast. The people that were donating it went, well, If you can't use it, we're going to use it somewhere else. And the grants don't work. It's part of the legal process. If you can't use the money for the way that the grant was written, then you don't get the money ever. It's one of the reasons why grant writing works the way that it does. Yeah, like all that stuff costs money. And it all of it has very specific things that you have to go through to make it work. And running a charity is really, really complicated. And that's on top of the fact that I've said this many times before. Running a business is very, very hard. I have a degree in it. I know. I have run businesses before. I was actually pretty damn good at it before my brain decided to attack me. Running a business is very, very hard. And we have seen time and time and time again what happens when dipshits that don't know what they're doing run a business. Generally what happens is not only do they fuck themselves over, but they fuck over every other person that worked for them because they couldn't take the time to learn how to run a business. Now, if you're looking at a charity, take all of that stuff about, hey, running a business is really hard and multiply it by 1,000. Because in addition to having to do all the stuff for running a business, because charities are businesses, they have all the same bullshit stuff that you have to do running a regular business that you do running a charity. But then in addition to that, you have all of these other limitations and other reporting things and all this other stuff to be able to run the charity. And there's certain things you're allowed to do and certain things you're 100% not allowed to do. And it's very, very confusing. All of that is really, really tough stuff. And when two dipshit morons that don't know what they're talking about just look at money and go, well, this money didn't work the way that I want it to, so I'm going to make a big old stink about it. They fucked over not only Gerard, but everyone that worked with him and was associated with him in any way, shape, or form. They ruined dozens of lives because they were two dipshit morons that didn't know what they were talking about, in my humble opinion. Legalese. And it just pisses me off. If anyone is relatively new here because you've been watching like my TTRPG content, I do mostly TTRPG content. But again, I have a degree. My official degree title, I've said this many times before, but I keep saying it because it makes me feel special. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Marketing Management. And that is effectively a kind of combination degree where it's a degree in marketing and a degree in project management as they relate to business. So I learned everything from, the history of marketing and how to create a marketing campaign and stuff like that, to how to calculate how much it will cost to change the machinery in a factory to produce a different type of nut. I was very happy with the education that I got. A surprisingly large amount of it was completely useless because it was designed by people that had never actually run a business. But the project management stuff was absolutely essential, and the marketing stuff was pretty good. Most of the rest of the business management stuff in there was pointless. But that's the state of education in the U.S. in general. So yeah, like every so often I will do business topics because crazy enough, I actually enjoyed business. I enjoy economics. I enjoyed running sales and all that stuff. Like that stuff is really, really fun to me because it makes sense. And I was very, very good at it. So yeah, every so often I like to have these little business thingy-ma-things. Yeah. Interested to hear from you guys. First of all, any of you guys used to be fans of The Completionist? Do we have anyone that are still fans of The Completionist? Again, I never thought he was an evil, disgusting person. I just thought he made some stupid mistakes. That, again, were not nearly stupid enough that I felt it was justified all this stuff that happened. And if he starts making videos again, I will probably watch them again. Because I liked his stuff, and I think he's a cool dude. He just made some mistakes. Dumb mistakes that he's admitted to. But that's what it is. And again, everybody makes mistakes. And the mistake that he made didn't actually negatively affect anyone. until two dipshit morons that didn't know what they were talking about, in my humble opinion, legalese, decided to make up shit, in my humble opinion, legalese, so that people would watch their shit. And that's not okay. So the moral of this story, please, for the love of God, understand, if you don't understand how businesses work, stop trying to dictate how they work. They're complicated, they're hard work, and you fuck over people that don't deserve to be fucked over. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. One of these days, I would love to give an actual TED Talk specifically about training. Because TED Talks are basically dead, I doubt that's ever going to be a thing. But if you guys would like to see me deliver a talk about the intricacies of training, let me know in the comments down below, and I will probably never do it. But who knows? Maybe someday I can publish my book. It's all for me today. I will see you next time. All right? Bye-bye.